Good afternoon, everyone. Apologies, Rana couldn't make it, so I've been saddled with this presentation. Presentation is about little bit about where we are in terms of the macro improvements and little bit about where we stand and what our plans are over the next 2 to 3 years. So I'll post presentation, if there are any questions, we'll be happy to take those as well. So obviously a lot of buzz around what the country is today vis-a-vis where we were about 12-18 months back. While there has been a lot of focus on the political change and the political mandate, I think equally important or probably more relevant has been the sheer improvements in the macro profile. Today, as we stand, I think most of the problems that we were as a country saddled with about 12-18 months back appear to have dramatically changed. Partly cyclical, partly to do with how global environment has panned out, and to some extent, therefore, the new political establishment has also benefited from being at the right place at the right time. Some of the parameters include a far better situation on current account deficit. We were about 4.5% last year. We are safely sub 2%, which, as per consensus, is well within the tolerable medium-term range. That improvement in CAD also has resulted in a fairly stable currency. The Reserve Bank of India obviously did a good job last year in terms of managing the currency and the expectations. And while we did go through a pain on interest rates, but that appears to be now significantly moderating. Fiscal deficit, we may or may not be able to, possibly stick to the 4.1, but the quality of the fiscal deficit should also get better, by which I would mean that the subsidy burden or the subsidy-oriented expenditure coming off and hopefully getting replaced by more planned expenditure, more capital expenditure, which should allow a crowding in of private sector investments over a period of time. Inflation already looking quite comfortable. Hopefully, in our Indian economy, what I also believe is that given a substantially large part of credit is really corporate credit, and consumer is not that leveraged, hopefully a cut in rates will actually be beneficial for inflation. So there is a sustained possibility of reduction in rates over the next 12-18 months. And so that's overall, I think, between growth, inflation, dynamics also looking more favorable towards growth. Fiscal and current account deficits both being problems last year, appearing under control. One can say that this is probably a good time to be investing here. Coming to banking sector trends, just to kind of highlight the opportunity that is there with potentially the new private sector banks. If you look at the trend over the last 20 years, we've seen the new private sector banks gain market share from 0 to about 20% through gains across PSUs, foreign banks, and old private sector banks. Foreign banks have actually meaningfully contracted their market share post the global crisis, wanting to focus on home markets. And therefore, the opportunity for growth for the new private sector banks can possibly be significantly higher than what could be the expected industry credit growth. Expected industry credit growth should also step up, though slowly, because as inflation comes down, we will also have credit growth getting impacted and not coming back to high teens that easily. But I guess the opportunity for new private sector banks will include market share gains, and potentially this trend should only accelerate going forward. Even in terms of where the sector stands, I think whether it's asset quality, whether it's capital, whether it is technology and services, I think on most fronts, private sector banks seem to be better placed today. Coming to Yes Bank and what our growth drivers are, this is a slide which really captures the last 10 odd years of our evolution. We just completed 10 years of existence in August this year, which marked the 10th anniversary of our commercial operations. So within 10 years and sooner, actually, we've become the fourth largest private sector bank in terms of balance sheet. I've been with the bank for 10 years and I don't think we would have forecasted this kind of a growth if we go back in time. Along the way, we started with a small capital of just about $45 million, 200 crores, 217 crores to be precise. And after the recent capital raise, we've crossed 10,000 crores in shareholder funds, 15,000 crores in total capital, and about 1,16,000 crores in terms of balance sheet size. Some of the more recent developments, we got a rating upgrade a couple of months back from our lead rating agency, ICRA and CARE. So we are now AA plus, and hopefully we should, internally target to be a AAA bank in the next couple of years. The recent highlight, of course, was the $500 million qualified institutional placement that we consummated in May earlier this year. The issue was fairly well received. We had oversubscription of 5 times, so the demand was close to $2.5 billion and was reasonably well priced for the market price at that point in time. In terms of a couple of other developments, we launched Yes Securities, which is a broking arm as a subsidiary about a year back. So that is now fully operational with reasonable growth in customers beginning to happen. The broad philosophy here is to provide a 3-in-1 product opportunity for retail, and that was really the missing link for the savings account proposition. So now we have the demat, the savings, and the broking tied into a 3-in product like other banks. And with a 7% savings account proposition, we believe it's a very good opportunity for growing that business and including the rub-off effect on improving savings balances as well as customer acquisition. And hopefully the timing of the launch in that business is good because the platform is set and we're looking at retail participation increasing in markets. So we're probably getting it at the right time. We also crossed 500 branches. We are at about 590 branches, which is somewhat critical size now. And we've almost quadrupled our branches in the last 4 years. We were at about 150 branches in March 2010. So in about 4.5 years, we have quadrupled the branches. And this is despite a relatively muted growth environment that we've seen in the last almost 3 years. And hopefully the benefit of that expansion is really going to be felt over the next 2 years because branches take a couple of years to really begin to become meaningful in terms of productivity. So whatever investments have happened in the last 2-3 years, we will begin to see fruits on the retail side over the next couple of years. So that's something that I was alluding to. We've not shied away from investing in this environment. Along with branch increases, naturally have come with investments in people. So we are about 9,500 people. We are adding about 1,600 to 1,800 people, employees a year. Largely, 95% of that would be going towards retail operations, liabilities, assets, credit, and operations on the retail side. Just a little bit of story on how we've grown the retail liabilities profile. This is obviously still less than optimal, but the last few years has seen a significant amount of traction in retail liabilities. One of the points here to highlight is that while we've been suboptimal on the ratios like a CASA ratio or retail liability franchise, I think in absolute numbers, in absolutes, if you look at where some of the peers were when they were 5 years or 8 years after operations, I think we've done better than that. It's just that the ratios are still suboptimal because of the kind of growth as a bank that we've experienced over the last 10 years. Having said that, I think the improvements have been coming reasonably well over the last 3 to 4 years due to a combination of much better brand franchise that we've invested in the recent past, some network effect criticality on branches and people, vintage and presence over a longer period of time, increase in investments in people. So all of that has resulted in a reasonable performance improvement on the liability side. So as we stand today, the CASA is about 22.5%. We expect to grow this ratio between 3 to 4% every year. And if interest rates come down, hopefully faster than that, because a lower interest rate regime probably aids growth in CASA. The investment in branches over the last few years will begin to bear higher fruit. Today, our productivity levels on client acquisition on retail liabilities is getting close to what peers are doing. So that also has increased our confidence and ability to add people at a rapid rate. Even in terms of not only CASA but fixed deposits from retail, I think the traction has been fairly good, and the percentages have kind of kept growing, as a result of which today we are now somewhere close to getting 50-50 between CASA retail on one side and corporate deposits on the other side, and this ratio will continue to improve. At least we will endeavor to improve this till we get to about 65%, which would be more like the industry average. On the retail asset side, this has been a phase 2 kind of a growth opportunity for us, consciously for more reasons than one. We wanted to first focus on the retail liabilities part and get the traction going before we begin to invest meaningfully on the retail asset side. Amongst other reasons, interest rate risk and asset liability maturity were the driving factors, because retail, as you would know, is mostly fixed rate business, and on the liability side, the real fixed rate liability is really only current account, savings account balances. So as we grow our CASA and as we become meaningful in terms of absolute and growth rate confidence, we are now being in a far better position to kind of grow the retail asset business. Over the last 2 years, we've invested in people, management, top middle management, sales, products, and technology. And therefore, we believe we have a right platform now to grow this business in the next 3 to 5 years. And this really would be a significant driver for overall loan growth, balance sheet growth as we go forward. Broadly speaking, our retail SME platform can be looked at in a few buckets. Pure retail, we are looking at it in 2 parts. The consumption retail, which is more home loans, auto loans, two-wheeler loans, personal loans kind of business, and the business retail or the commercial retail, which will include products like commercial vehicles, construction equipment, medical equipment, and so on and so forth, and SME, SHG lending. The former, the focus is really to look at in-house liability customers as an opportunity to sell. 2 reasons. One, cost of origination is low because you're going to someone who knows you, and second, hopefully cost of risk is low because you're going to existing liability customers. We have more than 1 million liability customers now, which is a reasonable size for us to start penetrating from an asset perspective. And we are also adding close to 100,000 customers a quarter. So there is a nice growing base on which we will want to focus the retail asset on the consumption side. The other important thing on the liability franchise is that the quality of customers, we believe, is very healthy. It is the middle of the pyramid and up kind of customers. Average balances are much higher than industry average. On savings, for example, we would have average balances of 130 to 140,000 rupees. Not only is the average higher, even the median is higher, indicating the fact that we don't have a long tail of poor quality customers, which effectively means that the ability to cross-sell to this customer base definitely exists. It's up to us to do a good job of execution now, but the first part of getting the customer right, getting a good customer quality right is pretty much there. So therefore the focus on consumption retail being more inward looking to begin with, and that will probably be the strategy for the next couple of years. On the commercial retail, naturally we go out for new customers, and that will be through manufacturer, dealer, distributor tie-ups. Here the focus is to be largely doing priority sector lending compliant business, and that's an interesting shift that is happening for us, where our dependence on in-house generated priority sector lending will increase, and therefore dependence on buying out priority sector lending portfolios will go down, which will therefore effectively be yield accretive for the overall asset base. Over a period of time, we've now also, so this is also the transition that we're going through, where we've created 10 credit hubs. So the decision on lending becomes naturally more distributed rather than centralized. We've added to sales and credit teams in these 10 hubs to improve faster turnaround time. We invested in technology on these fronts, and of course the most important investments have been in top middle management on this business. SME and micro SME lending is also an area of focus. SME business for us is somewhat mature. We've been doing that business for the last 3 to 4 years. Micro SME business is something that is more recent introduction, about a year back. And again, this is substantially PSL directed lending compliant, which helps us fulfill that component with reasonable yields. The other important thing that we've done on this is that we have, rather than having a vertical approach on assets and liabilities for retail and SME, we are making the branch as really the hub for doing both businesses, and therefore consciously there is a lot more combined efforts from the liabilities and the asset teams to do business with the same customer, and the branch manager therefore has got the responsibility, at least on a dotted basis, on both sides of the balance sheet. And we've seen that working quite well, rather than having a very vertical approach all the way up. And therefore the incentive programs on the sales side is also being designed to ensure a lot more cross-sell between both sides of the customer. We are also in early stages of looking at SME asset business in the tier 3, tier 4 towns, mostly focused on the agri side of the business. Early days yet, but the idea is again to kind of better utilize the tier 3, tier 4 branches, because here in these branches it is important to have an asset product on the SME side if you want to get good liability business as well. So overall, between retail assets and SME, micro SME business, we expect this to contribute anywhere between 30 to 40% of incremental growth on the loans side as we go ahead, rest of the year and the next year, and probably increasing its contribution over a period of time. As a result of which, the overall mix of the loan book should get more meaningful over the next 3 years on the retail SME side as we improve this business contribution. Some of these I discussed. I think the advantage we have here is that from a retail asset or a SME asset perspective, the branch network already exists. Even today, we are offering asset products only from about 200 odd branches. So not only will we add more branches from the existing set of branches, but as we grow branch network, the distribution on the asset side will continue to grow. On the liability side, just to kind of come back on where our focus is, 3 or 4 areas of focus. One is salary accounts, which is a B2B2C strategy, where we go to our large corporate customers and get salary accounts of the employees. Mostly we are focusing on new joinees and therefore catching the customers young. So we get a lot of accounts, but obviously the balances in these accounts will be on the lower end of the spectrum, naturally because of the profile of customers. But we expect to grow along with these customers as they grow in their jobs and their careers. So these gives us numbers today and hopefully a good opportunity for internal growth as these customers grow. Then we have a focus on senior citizens, which has been a good success area for the bank. We used to offer a differential fixed deposit rate of 1% to senior citizens about 2 years back, which is now rationalized back to 0.5%, which is what the general industry trend would be. But that has allowed us to penetrate significantly in the senior citizens from a fixed deposit and savings perspective. And that is where probably a lot of wealth is, people who have saved over their lives. We also try and penetrate into the family accounts through that business. And the third would be more middle of the pyramid, HNI kind of clients whom we offer good products, good service, and potentially a higher savings rate of 7%, which helps in tilting the decision making in favor of the bank. So we've seen fair amount of acquisition improvements there. In terms of number of accounts that we are now trending, I think as I said, we are doing 100,000 customers a quarter, and there has been a sequential improvement over the last 7-8 months. Every month has been better than the previous month. So I think somewhere the liability strategy of the bank and the acquisition is now settling in nicely. And what we need to do that is over the next 12-18 months replicate that on the asset side. So this is an important potential opportunity and growth driver for us in terms of revenues. We do believe that we are well placed to get back into an increasing margin trend. So we were at about 2.4, 2.5%, 2.6% margins about 5-6 years back. We slowly stepped it up to 3% over the last 3-4 years. We had a little bit of a volatile year last year given where interest rates were. So we kind of slipped down to 2.8%, and we are back to 3 plus now. And over the next 3 to 4 years, we expect that we will add 15 to 20 basis points of margins every year. Some of the drivers of the margins include change in asset mix. So we do more SME, more retail that adds to overall interest-bearing asset yields. Improvement in CASA, and we've demonstrated a fair amount of track record, and we expect improvements of 3 to 4% a year, as I mentioned before, which will reduce cost of funds and therefore aid margins. Bulk of the growth in CASA will come through savings, and therefore the impact will be to the extent of the differential between savings and term deposits and not so much current account. We've been fairly stable on current account in the last 3 to 4 years. Or maybe 3 years, we've been between 9 and 10%. But that's not a bad outcome given that probably the industry current account has contracted over the last 3 years. The other margin driver would also be, as I mentioned, that we will start doing a lot more in-house directed lending portfolio rather than buying out portfolios. So that naturally results in a substitution of assets which are maybe 11-12% yielding as compared to 5 and 6%, because buying out portfolios comes at fairly low yields. And the other shift would be that in a little bit of noise that we may see if rates sharply come down, which will benefit in the interim, and then we will lose that benefit as we cut our lending rates or base rates. So this is more structural and not cyclical. Little bit on what the focus is for the next 3 to 5 years. Retail liabilities continues to be an important focus area. We are far away from being optimal on that. We would want to be a 30+% CASA in, let's say, the next 2 years from the current 22.5, 23% that we are averaging. One point on savings that I missed talking about in the context of margins, we will also rationalize the rates. The plan is to, over a period of time, bring the effective rate down by 1%. And by effective rate, I meant we may not necessarily change the headline rates as much, but we will also keep increasing the thresholds that are required for maintaining a for getting a higher rate. So as we increase the threshold for the 7% requirement, the effective cost will keep coming down. So that is the other stored opportunity on improving in margins. But coming back, I think next 2-3 years, focus continues to be on getting customers and improving the CASA balances. Along with that, the retail liability traction. Focus on the retail and SME asset opportunity of a low base. We expect that to be growing fairly rapidly. A lot of that will help in in-house compliance of priority sector lending, which I mentioned, again aiding margins. Retail fees for us has been a relatively smaller component, accounting for 10 to 15% of overall non-interest income. I expect that contribution to step up as we improve our customer acquisition and customer base on the retail liability side, and as we start cross-selling a lot more. In the last 3, 4, 5 years, the focus has been substantially on CASA as being the most important metrics driving the retail sales force. As we see CASA coming a lot more naturally, I think there has been now an attempt to get a lot more balance in also focusing on fee income through FX, third-party sales, insurance, mutual funds, and other fee businesses. So we should see a step up in this as we go along. And all of this naturally comes with investments in technology, in brand franchise, and that has been a continuous investment for us, and I guess that trend will continue. So overall, while corporate banking will be a bread and butter business for quite some more time, but the contribution from other parts of the businesses should keep improving over the next 3 to 5 years. A little bit on our overall HR pillars. I think one of the important things is to look at the age profile. That is, fairly young. Average age of the overall is about 29 years. We also had a fairly stable top middle management team. Attrition levels in those in that segment is sub 10%. And also because there is a lot of growth opportunities that is available within the bank. And obviously ESOPs have been a big driver as well for attracting and retaining talent. We've been in the last 2-3 years have been large employees on campuses and top management campuses, and now have a fairly good presence and brand recognition in that, which has been a large driver for junior middle management, and then a lot of internal middle management coming through over the last 3-5 years. This has been probably a very big challenge for us. Obviously, when we started, we were not known as a bank. It has been a very difficult proposition to build the brand and the trust around the bank and the brand. And I think finally, over the last couple of years, we've begun to see a lot more acceptance. Even in tier 3, tier 4 towns today, we seem to be much better known. There's been a sea change in how people perceive us in general, especially in the retail community from a consumer standpoint. And that has been through a conscious investment that we've been doing over the last 3 to 4 years in developing the brand. We've also done some innovative ways to reach out to people. So we do a lot of community events around branches, which is a low-cost, local opportunity that we kind of derive rather than doing big bang advertising. We're also fairly active on social media. I was surprised to know we are the most followed bank on Twitter, and reasonable presence on Facebook. Probably one will also move from a technology standpoint to look at banking transactions through social media. So that's also something that we are working on, where we could help customers do bill payments and other banking transactions through social media. A lot of activity and interesting opportunities will be thrown up in this, and hopefully we should be able to somewhere be in the top leading banks in innovating on this front. And a lot of recognitions and rewards over the last few years, and that continues, and we are kind of quite grateful on that front to various agencies who have recognized the performance across multiple matrices. So that was a short presentation, open to Q&A. Manish, anything else?
So let me start with the Q&A with one question from my side. I mean, you talked about interest rates and macro improving and seeing the benefits over the next medium term and next few months. How do you track that from a business and operating parameters? Is there specific parameters that you track that give you the confidence that actually there is an improvement in the economy?
No, so I guess I think from a micro perspective, whether growth is improved, whether corporate profitability is improved, I think we are still some time away, and I don't think that has happened. But that will be coming with a lag to whatever we are seeing now, whether it is policy, whether it is ease of doing business, whether it's project clearances. What we will look forward to in terms of matrices would mean actually improvements in manufacturing growth, improvement in IIP, improvement in credit growth potentially, and improvement in corporate matrices on profitability or sales. And I think that is not yet meaningfully happened, and we expect that to happen over the next 3 to 4 quarters. In the meanwhile, tying up with our growth prospects, I think while we've not seen that, but I guess where there is conviction today is that incremental bad news is very unlikely in a meaningful way, and therefore if we are looking at credit opportunities, we are looking at opportunities with reasonably full knowledge of what is already wrong, and therefore decisions taken now are unlikely to go wrong unless there is something which we don't know comes about, which is of low probability. So therefore our risk appetite is slightly improved, and therefore we are looking at loan growth of mid-20s despite industry or despite where we are in terms of other growth parameters.
So somewhere in the slide it's mentioned warehousing of NIMs in SA account interest rate. So does that mean interest rate reduction in SA, and if at all, how do you see that playing out?
Yeah, so what we mean is that our effective savings rate is close to 7% today, and that is not going to be the case in the next 3 years. So that is where we are saying there is a warehouse of margins. We would unleash that over the next 2 to 3 years, and it will come on a higher and higher base. So today savings account accounts for about 12% or 12.5% of our total deposits. In 2 to 3 years time, that should be closer to 20 or better. And on that base, we will release somewhere between 0.5% to 1% over a period of time. So that is really over a period of time, it's a warehouse of margins which will be unleashed.
So, how do you see the overall financial sector landscape evolving over the next 5 to 7 years? Can you just give some perspective on that as well?
Sure. So I think some interesting developments which we're likely to get from a implementation standpoint, we will obviously have more banks coming in. We will also have different types of banks. So I guess payment banks is something which potentially will come in the next 18-24 months. So we'll have to see how is that complementary to what we do, is that competing to what we do, is something that we will need to be watching out for. The way people end up doing banking will also change. There is a theory that maybe maybe you don't need branches anymore after a period of time, at least in areas where there is good mobile 3G penetration and smart handsets. A lot of that can be done on mobile. I believe in developed world we are already seeing banks rationalizing branches, whether it's US, whether it's Europe, whether it's South Africa. So are we heading to a stage where increase in branches will lead to just cost drag going forward? So that's something which will evolve over the next maybe not 3 to 5 years, but maybe 5 to 10 years. The other important dynamics is non-banking finance companies. Probably regulations will move towards making them more like a bank. Whether they transition to a bank or not is something that we will have to see. So a host of kind of changes. I think consumption side, consumer side, how people do banking will change. On the competitive landscape side, we will see more banks coming in, and and differentiated banks. So it's going to be exciting times. Usually we've seen that for someone like us, small, nimble still, despite having some critical size, I think we have less legacy issues, and we've generally benefited from disruption. Examples are savings rate, deregulation. Examples are branches being freed up, so we have better flexibility in increasing branches. So generally disruption should still be beneficial till we become much larger in size. So we will have to continue to be nimble in our approach.
So if there are no further questions, thank you, Jaideep.
Thank you
so
Manish.
much for
Thanks everyone for the opportunity.
Thank you. We would just like to present a small token of thanks to Mr. Iyer for presenting Yes Bank to us. Thank you.